This is a video from RogueRanks. He's gone rogue, man. This is from 4 months ago, but it is a completely reasonable Elder Scrolls 6 wish list. And one of you guys shared it with me and said, Luke, you got to check this out and let us know your thoughts. My perspective on the Elder Scrolls is that we should maintain a level-headed disposition. We should remember the people making these games are just people. They're just normal, everyday people. You shouldn't venerate them. You shouldn't treat them any differently, because at the end of the day, they are just people. That means they're capable of things just like you and me, but they have certain capacities. So even though you may be tempted to take somebody and elevate them on a pedestal as though they're capable of endless features and systems, don't do that. Remember that they're just normal. I think Elder Scrolls 6 probably will end up disappointing most people. Okay, I don't say that in a celebratory way. I'm just saying, based on the ridiculous hype, I think people are going into it with unreasonable expectations, okay? I think realistically it ends up playing like Starfield, but with grass. Starfield, but with swords. Because that's kind of what Bethesda games are, is that they build something, they add on to it, and then they just stack a little bit more on. They build out a Fallout, Fallout 3, which really was just Oblivion, but with guns. And then from Fallout 3, they move on to Skyrim, where they took a lot of their learnings from the RPG systems and the combat and skills and stuff from Fallout 3, and they build out Skyrim, but they streamline it into something that's much more mass marketable, right? And then they take that and they build it out into Fallout 4, and they try to go cinematic with it, get a voice protagonist, and they build out Fallout 4. And all along they're adding systems and they're changing stuff, whether it's with like in terms of combat, or like the VAT system coming from Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, or Fallout 4, they build the settlement system where you can actually build a little house and customize it. And then that leads straight into Fallout 76, which of course is kind of entirely built around the base building and customizing your own space. And then Starfield comes along, and Starfield is basically Fallout 76, but in space and way more procedural, but it's also built around building your own little hab and customizing your ship. And I think that this will follow suit exactly with Elder Scrolls 6, where it's going to have probably castle customization, which is just the settlement system, but with castle walls instead. And maybe, I know some people have suggested maybe there's going to be like ship customization like Starfield had. I don't really see how that works, because it's a ship, like it's a boat. Maybe you can customize the interior, but I wouldn't expect like mods and habs, because that's not how boats work. But you never know. Maybe they'll let you customize a full galleon. I think that'd be super cool. But I think they'll have stuff like that that's basically just the same systems you had in the previous games carried forward. I think that'll all be there. Day one mods, baby. Not the mods you're hoping for, though. I think it's going to be the paid mods, the Creation Club. I think that's going to be built out there. And I think it's very, very likely that they're going to have mod support and paid mods available day one, day zero, because I think they are building up relationships with some of these modders at this stage to actually get them involved, building stuff out ahead of time. And so I think that that's going to be there. And basically my prediction is that Elder Scrolls 6 will be much more of a live service game than a single player game. I think it's going to be built around constant updates, constant micro expansions. That's what she said. But I think it's going to be probably not what you have in your mind. And I think that that's fine, because I don't think that there was ever going to be a way that they could live up to the expectations. I think a lot of people are looking at them and thinking that they're going to deliver a Red Dead 2 meets Witcher 3 meets Skyrim, and that's just not what BGS is interested in or capable of nowadays. I just don't foresee that happening. But let's hear what, again, Mr. RogueRanks has to say with his very reasonable takes. Maybe I'm being a pessimist. Who knows? Let's see.
An eternal night, an elusive, an endless wait, an eternal night, an elusive number 6. Sure, it's been 14 years since our last mainline Elder Scrolls title, but remember...
Now we're almost at 15. There was somebody, okay, that saw their dad at 3 to 4 years old playing Skyrim when it launched, who is now in college.
The real treasure were the skeevers we've killed along the way.
Yeah, screw
While
them.
Oblivion Remastered cited some thirst for a new Elder Scrolls, I still feel like a man stranded in a desert, crawling and desperate for just a drop of water, as Todd Howard rides up with a smile and hands me a saltine cracker with Starfield stamped onto it instead.
Or Fallout 76, or at least, you know, at least for Elder Scrolls fans, he doesn't do the, well, you have ESO. He doesn't really do that. Have you noticed that? He doesn't really do it. People constantly ask him about Fallout, and maybe it's just because of the show or whatever, but people constantly ask him about Fallout, and he's like, we have the most devs we've ever had working on Fallout right now, today. And what he means is, well, we're doing a crossover with Call of Duty and Fortnite, and we're also going to be doing all of this stuff in Fallout 76 that you're not interested in, and all this other stuff. But he doesn't really do that with Elder Scrolls. And maybe it's because he knows that they're about to get like a big dose, a big serving. My camera just went out of focus. Focus on me. He's focused on the goblin? Look at me, damn you. It doesn't want to focus on me. It's rebelling. The camera's fighting back. Now I'm just permanently out of focus. This is a YouTuber's worst nightmare. The ghost of Todd is back indeed. Alexa, turn off studio. Alexa, turn on studio. Much better. Sometimes you just got to turn it off and on again. Here we go. Continuing.
While speculations for a new Elder Scrolls are high, I'm trying to temper my own hype and expectations, as Bethesda has a lot to prove with a new title in their mainline series, and I need to keep in mind that I'll likely be playing this game in a nursing home. Even still, while I expect little to even none of this list to actually make the cut, it's fun to break down and discuss what my personal Elder Scrolls 6 wishlist looks like, and if you find yourself enjoying the video, comment your own wishlist items below, and like and subscribe for more. Now, in no particular order, let us dream. World and setting. With the Elder Scrolls 6 teaser trailer that was released only, wait, that can't be right, 7 years ago? Okay, while it doesn't necessarily confirm the setting, it does seem to highly indicate what has been suspected for a long time as the actual setting for 6, Hammerfell and or High Rock. Two areas outside of Elder Scrolls Online that we really haven't seen other than mentions of since Daggerfall or the legendary Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard. Well,
I mean, I think honestly for the vast majority of the players that will actually be playing this, is it out of focus again? No, it's okay. I think most people don't really care about the setting that much. I think for the average player, it pretty much comes down to, is it going to be snowy? Or is there going to be water? Or is it going to be like forested? Or is it like deserty? I think that that's where most of the like casual players are. My camera is like freaking out, dude. What's your problem? Oh, wait, I see what it's doing. It's trying to identify, is it Todd? I'm not joking. I think it's Todd. Dude, I think it's Todd. It's trying to lock onto his face when it faces the camera. That's freaking hilarious. It literally is the ghost of Todd. Praise Todd. Yes, indeed. That's so funny. Oops. Well, that's funny. Anyway, I don't know. I'll keep it on the camera. It's freaking out. Sorry.
The size and scale of Tamriel has shifted throughout the series. We shouldn't feel beholden to any canon as far as the actual land masses of the provinces go. I think ideally we would see both, or large swaths of both provinces in the Elder Scrolls 6. Providing the opportunity for vastly different biomes, creatures, enemies, cultures, and architecture within the same game. And seeing as how at this rate we'll be due another Elder Scrolls after 6 by 2080, I'd love to see both provinces realized at some point in a modern entry. But honestly, Hammerfell...
Or they're just going to fully lean into the live service thing, and they're going to do, you know, the expansion with a new map or something. Never put it past them. Like, Todd is a businessman at the end of the day, and I think that he knows... They're not getting to Elder Scrolls 6 or Elder Scrolls 7 while he's at the company, I don't think. Again, realistically, let's just be honest. I don't see how that works. I don't see how the math works. Like, again, just to put it in perspective, he is right now, I believe, 55. Okay? So he's 55 in 2020. I think that was as of 2025. Whoops, I know numbers. Come on. 25. So Fallout 5 probably comes out 2032. Let's be honest. Maybe sooner, maybe later, but 2032 is like pretty conservative. 7 years later, that puts him at 62 years of age. I'm guessing they want to try to do like a Starfield something. So this would be Fallout 5. So Starfield 2 in 20, let's say 5 years later, 37. And that would put him at 67. 67. And then if he dares to try and do ES7 by the time that he, realistically would be working on it, let's say they got even more efficient. 2041. These don't even sound like real numbers yet, do they? 4 years later would put him at 71. 71 is a rough age to still be a game director. Like, it's tough. It's not impossible. There are older devs that have worked in the industry forever. There's older creatives that work as like directors on films and stuff all the time. That's certainly possible. But there's a reason why a lot of people retire at 65. More efficient, they become less efficient. I'm trying to be generous. Okay. He's right there and his ghost is upset. It's messing with the camera. I gotta work with me. But like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, if we're just looking at this stretch, maybe they decide to cut Starfield 2 and do Elder Scrolls 7 right after Fallout 5, but that would still mean that he's going to be 67. And like, here's the deal. Todd, from all accounts that I've come across, he likes his nice things. He likes his racing cars. He likes his speedboats. He loves video games. But you know the video game Todd said that he is like most excited for year in, year out, that he like puts the most time into? It's that whatever NCAA college football game. Like, those are the games he plays. Okay. So like, I think that he will enjoy working on these things, but like at 67 years old, does he really want to be in the trenches day in, day out? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I think it's very likely that he knows this is the last Elder Scrolls he works on, realistically, other than maybe spin-off stuff. And at that point, if he ever wants to do anything more in it, either he'll just let it fully sunset, or he'll want to keep updating it with live updates and expansions. But I think that this is like fairly conservative, because there's also rumors and rumblings that maybe it is that they don't do Starfield 2 right after. Maybe they do something else. There's been rumors over like a Starfield 76 type offering, a space exploration, sort of their version of No Man's Sky. I don't know how well that goes, to be honest, but who knows what they end up doing.
In and of itself could provide a rich and vibrant setting, completely juxtaposed to the snowy peaks and tundras of Skyrim. While the Alakir Desert is probably Hammerfell's best known area, in canon the entire province is an extremely dense, diverse region with tropical jungles, large grasslands, swamps, arid deserts, and heavily wooded mountain ranges, so I wouldn't necessarily be concerned with diverse areas, even if the game took place entirely within Hammerfell. However, the reason I want to include High Rock, in addition to just wanting to see more of the warring nobility and fractured rulers of the Bretons, is primarily for Iliac Bay and what that could mean for brand new gameplay systems, namely seafaring and ships.
Boats, baby! I love me some boats and sailing. Like I said, I think if you're going to do a game on the coast, it just makes sense to give players a ship. But this is what I'm going to be real with, okay? Todd, baby, listen to me. If we have ships in the game and I can only sail on them through load screens, I'm finna crash out, okay? Like, actually, I'm gonna lose it. Because if it's like, hey, welcome to the port of Sentinel. Welcome. Would you like to take your ship and sail to the island of Sybiades? Yes, I would. Okay. Welcome back. You've arrived at the island of Sybiades. Oh, yes. Actually, I meant to sail my ship to Shalgora. Oh, okay. We can do that. Welcome to the shore of Shalgora. I'm going to lose it, dude. I'm going to lose it officially. You know, like, this is probably coming in 2028, man. Like, if you can't get a boat working, what are we doing? What are we doing? I feel like I'm not asking for much, but this is apparently, like, I've spoken to devs and modders. You guys have probably seen the videos. The way that the creation engine works is just unfriendly to this type of thing. And it's because when a map is spawned and created, it creates like the 0,0 coordinates. And the further out from that center point, basically, you get, the less accurate the like placement for characters, objects, and things gets because of how they handle floating point integers and stuff. Which is why for Starfield you reached a hard limit, right, of a certain number of kilometers that you could go away from that 0 point. And apparently there's just no fix. Like there's no easy way to fix it without like re-engineering huge chunks of the engine, which is what every other studio has done 20 years ago because they foresaw this shortcoming. BGS never did that. So here we are because they didn't think it was important. I think it's important for the types of games they want to make, but here we are.
Yeah, basically the setting could be Daggerfall too. The ability to hire, pilot, crew, or even purchase your own ship and sail the bay battling pirates.
That's a common thing in many engines. Yes, to be clear, it was actually something, there's a great example of it called the Far Lands in Minecraft, where if you reached beyond a certain point, the like game's ability to generate terrain would break and you'd get all these bizarre structures. If you want to look it up, like look up Minecraft. I guess I can show you. I'm the YouTuber. Damn it. Minecraft, the Far Lands. This is the kind of thing it would show you. And this was because of the very same thing that plagues the creation engine. These bizarre structures. It's the same basic programming flaw. They fixed it with Minecraft though. They never fixed it with the creation engine. So it's a common thing in game engines, but typically the engineers, what's that term? It's one that BGS never used. They fix it. They didn't do that.
Greater underwater exploration, or even purchase your own ship and sail the bay battling pirates with greater underwater exploration and discovery could be the massive innovation a decades-old series like Elder Scrolls could use.
Dude, for real, if you could actually go, imagine like with AC Odyssey. Again, AC Odyssey gets way too much hate. It really, really does. I've said that for years before it was popular to say that AC Odyssey is underrated. Nowadays, people look back on it like, actually, it's pretty good. I'm like, bro, I was saying this and people were mad at me. You know, called me a shill, but dude, I think AC Odyssey is underrated. And one of the things they did great was not just the sailing, but they also had like points of interest, shipwrecks and stuff. Like you could actually go out and sail and you could find points of interest in the water. Like, look at this. If this is something that you could see in Elder Scrolls 6, where you can actually sail a ship, like how cool would that be? Look, you can actually spot it and then he's actually going to go down and swim to it. If this were an Elder Scrolls 6, we would be praising Bethesda for how groundbreaking this was. Like, this would be so cool to have in an Elder Scrolls game. Can you imagine? The problem is Odyssey was a bad or a meh AC game. That's absolutely true. As an Assassin's Creed game, it was meh. But as like an open world adventure fantasy RPG, bro, it's really good. It's really good. It even has its own mini version of the Nemesis system with like the mercenaries and stuff. It's really cool. But anyway, that's a topic for another video. Anyways, continue on. I do agree that this particular setting could give them the opportunity to do all sorts of crazy cool stuff. I'm not sure that they'll do it. Skirban says, how is it every time you talk about Elder Scrolls 6, I get sad about a new thing? Stop that. It's not my fault. It kind of is.
The bugs associated with ship-to-ship boarding in combat would be legendary in and of themselves. This of course necessitates a vast overhaul to water dynamics and physics and many other systems, but the idea of being able to pilot or even customize your own ship as seen in Starfield, even in place of a homestead type of system, could be incredibly cool if done well. That's a really large if. Also, given the popularity of Skyrim, I imagine they may want to do a similar character power system like the Dragonborn, which is pretty obvious to me seeing as how it was almost one-to-one copied within Starfield.
Like, dude, literally, and this is what I've said like earlier to start this segment. Like, they kind of just do the same game leading into this next game, leading to the next game. And with Starfield, like, it literally was Skyrim in space, where they just were like, yeah, full on, let's just do Fus Roda. But instead of pushing, we'll go zero gravity. And like, they just added all of this.
With the Starborn, super creative name. And Hammerfell does give me an interesting idea on how...
Thank you, Ethan, for the sub. Ethex, it's ETHXN, so maybe Ethan, I don't know. Thank you for the sub.
To adapt that sort of system to the setting, though I will touch on that more in the questing section. So while I think Hammerfell and High Rock present many unique and compelling opportunities for quests and characters, and is probably the most likely, my more out there wishlist setting is Black Marsh. The massive rainforest and mostly inhospitable swampy homeland of the Argonians, Black Marsh would have the potential to be the most frankly batshit crazy setting within the entire series.
That would be cool.
With huge swaths of the land covered in poison poisonous gases, diseases, and swamps, heavy jungle aesthetics, incredibly deadly creatures and
And Link is there too. It was crazy. What a crossover.
denizens, and completely fantastical cultures and religions with the Hist. As a lover of Morrowind, Black Marsh could be even more alien and almost incomprehensible as a setting, which is why I would absolutely love it, and also why it will absolutely never be made. Basically, whatever type of skooma the devs were huffing during Morrowind needs to be brought back into the studio.
Dude, can we take a moment to just appreciate how sad it is that even hardcore fans of Elder Scrolls are like, this would be so cool. Which means it's never going to happen. Never getting it. Like, that's sad, man. Any other studio, you'd hope that people would be like, they might. That'd be so cool. But dude, like, the level of expectation. This is why I think it's kind of stupid when people are like, I think expectations for Bethesda are too high. Bro, they are low. They're so low. Maybe among the casual audience, there's people that think they're still capable of doing some of this stuff. But it seems to me like all of the online discourse, at least, is just people being like, wow, the game boots. Okay, Todd. Color me surprised. Like, it's far from forgiving.
I'd want the story to take place canonically after the event.
Potato Nader, thank you. Love you, Luke, baby. Keep being my guy. You keep being my little potato. You keep being my little potato. Nailed it.
Needs to be brought back into the studio. Either way, I'd want the story to take place canonically after the events of Skyrim to maintain the continuity of the series.
Great.
Hopefully lessons were also learned hard with Starfield, which not only embraced the tired saying, wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle, but seemed to make that its guiding North Star field in its design. Denser regions, richer areas, cities, and towns, rather than just massive scale, would be hugely appreciated.
Depth over width, but this is one moment where I'm gonna hit you with a truth bomb. Ready? Bethesda doesn't tend to make a system and then never use it again. Except for one very particular instance. I want to see if anybody in chat can get it. Typically, when they build something, they reuse it in the next game, whether you like it or not. Boom! Does anyone in chat know the one time they did build something and then abandon it? Can anybody think? Yes, Caleb got it. Voice protagonist. They didn't. People didn't love that. You know, it was a fun experiment for Fallout 4, but I think that I remember listening to some interviews around launch where Todd was like, you know, this was what our thought process was. And it sort of is an experiment. And the vibe I got from the interview at the time was that he maybe was like, didn't really work out the way we wanted it to. So next time we won't. And sure enough, like with Starfield, they went a different direction. With even Fallout 76, when they added all sorts of dialogue options with the whatever, was it the Wastelanders update? One of those. When they added one of the updates to bring voice characters and NPCs to the game, they went back to the traditional style. So they did walk away from that, even though they built that out. But the reason I bring this up is because if they built out procedural generation for big expansive maps, I think the odds are very, very low that they totally abandon that. I just do. Like, I think if they put all the time and money into that, I think it's very likely that they will have some implementation of that procedural generation in Elder Scrolls 6. My guess is that they use it, and I think this would be the best way to use it. They do sort of a Chalice Dungeons type thing, just like Bloodborne did. They do like a series of progressively more challenging dungeons that are procedurally generated, offer loot, and it's sort of like an end game grind thing. Do that. I hope they don't do something where it's like, hop on your ship and sail to the Mystery Lands, which is just procedurally generated maps. You know, I think that could get really, really boring really quickly.
Vigilante 5498 donated $20 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Hey Luke, sorry to interrupt, but just wanted your take on Overwatch finally dropping the charade, and 2, I don't think I have ever seen a company completely delete a sequel before.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, what I will say is, like, we can make fun of them for dropping the name and the wasted years and years, but to just look at where the game is now. I played it with my friends and some family members last night, and I will say that the game was fun for the first time in a long time for us. I don't know if it's just that there's more players. I don't know if it's that they rebalance things, if it's the new characters. Like, I don't know exactly what it is, but what I do know is that the game was a lot more fun than it's been in a very long time. And I personally think it's because they were forced to get their act together and actually try which is something they didn't really do until Marvel Rivals came along. But it seems like Rivals gave them enough of a kick in the pants to be like, ooh, okay, we got to try. And it's really good to see because the game, I think, is better for it. Overwatch 2 was always kind of a joke. Let's be honest. It was always kind of a joke. So it's nice to see that they're actually trying now. Yeah, Jacob says Jetpack Cat is the best addition they've made in years. Yeah, dude. I mean, they've done good work and they should be proud of it. And I'm just glad to see them trying again.
It leads me to think that a combined Hammerfell and High Rock would likely be biting off more than Bethesda can chew. Really, regardless of the setting, I just want to see a return of much more fantastical architecture, creatures, cultures, and traditions. While the series has always had a very high fantasy approach to its design, feeling like a stranger in a strange land to the extent of Morrowind again would be incredible. Role-playing and character. While I love the Elder Scrolls, obviously, where the more modern entries, and I say modern including Oblivion, which is almost 20 years old, succeed for me is in their world design, interactivity, and breadth of options and freedom, but can falter in some deeper, dare I say, crunchier RPG mechanics. While over the years the sentiment that Skyrim fails as an RPG is common, I must disagree somewhat. Skyrim offers a freedom of gameplay and world interaction that I honestly don't think is realized with any other game. You can embrace your dragonbornness, you can take your place as leader of a guild, you can ignore it all and take up a quiet life blacksmithing in a small town. Just ignore the odd vampire or dragon attack. You can just go run off into the woods as a naked primal hunter. You can build a house, start a family, spend your days reading dozens of books by the fire. Fundamentally, you can take the role of anything, playing however you want, and experiencing character growth and development throughout, even if it's fairly shallow. I think what is generally meant by it lacking deep RPG mechanics is regarding choice and consequence, which is fair enough, as many factions, questlines, and story beats either can't be changed or impacted by your actions, or have only the barest of changes outside of a few rare instances. And there's also no limit on what you can be or join or do. You can just kind of do anything at any point.
Yeah, and this is why I've called it like a junk food game, like a junk food RPG, or a junk food adventure game, open world game, whatever you want to call it. And it's basically just the idea is you're not going to get any substance from it. It's not going to fill your tummy too much, but it's really easy to just and just kind of mindlessly consume. If you don't think about it too much or worry too much about the ingredients or what it's doing to you, you can have a good time. And I think if you play a game like Skyrim that way, you can have a really good time. My point and what I've been trying to raise is that I think audiences in 2026 or likely 2028 when this launches, I think they have different tolerances and different expectations than they did back in 2011. And I think that's kind of obvious, at least to me. But I think if you tried to deliver Skyrim today, let's just say Skyrim relaunches, same gameplay systems, but like graphically upgraded and stuff like that. It's just Skyrim, but a little prettier. I think if you launched it and wiped the world consciousness of Skyrim's reputation and everything, I don't think it would be met today with the same level of like laudation. I don't think it would like click in the same way, because it was unapologetically a product of its time in a really good way. That's why it was so exceptional in its time. But that's why you can't just make Skyrim 2. You can't just do like, the same, wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle thing. You have to have more depth, because I think that players have started to expect that. And with big games like The Witcher 3, like Baldur's Gate 3, breaking into the mainstream, giving players a taste of what depth is really like, I think that that's what they would come to expect.
The discussion really lies.
Yeah, load screens is a big one. That's also just one of those expectations. Yeah, exactly. Where like players nowadays expect no load screens. So when they see a ton of load screens while exploring an open world, or they see their experience broken up with a lot of load screens, it's jarring.
Is defining what an RPG actually is, as it's such a broadly applied term in gaming that can apply from things like Final Fantasy to Cyberpunk to Elden Ring, which are almost incomparable games other than your character levels up and there are stats.
For real.
It's not a discussion I want to get into in this video, but while the Elder Scrolls series has slowly sacrificed more traditional D&D inspired stat crunching and options for accessibility and mainstream appeal, it hasn't all been bad in my humble opinion. Okay.
And maybe this is a hot take. Counts me. I don't care. Just my opinion. I think gamers are a lot smarter than they get credit for. I think you can have a really complex leveling system and players will figure it out. I don't think you have to dumb it down for them. Okay. I think that, the success of something like Elden Ring kind of demonstrates that. That is a very complicated game if you make it very complicated. But most players were like, I have a sword that scales with strength. I'll just keep putting more points in vitality and strength. Call it a day. I'm going to go with a bonk build. Like, that's what they're doing. They just don't really worry about it. I think that there's this assumption that every gamer out there is DSP, and that's not the case.
Okay, I'll admit, Skyrim did oversimplify way too much in regards to RPG elements, namely streamlining and removing attributes and classes. However, at the same time, it also introduced perk trees and even new dedicated skill types, like...
The cool thing about Skyrim's leveling system, though, is that it's entirely based around what you do. So if you do something more, you will get better at it. And if you never do anything, you will stay bad at it. So if you never wear heavy armor or use heavy armor, you will stay incompetent when it comes to that thing. Same with two-handed weapons, same with enchanting or restoration spells or whatever. And I thought that that was genuinely really cool. I think you could still do things, maybe even sub-leveling within each of these to add some more depth and complexity. Because Skyrim was kind of one of those games where you just kind of do whatever you want. And like he said, it'll level you up as you do that, which is why some people love it and why I think that it can work in the way that it was designed. But this is going to be really interesting to see if they go with the same type of leveling system for the next game or if they try to reinvent it.
Smithing and pickpocketing. However, I'd love to see Elder Scrolls 6 return to a deeper and more traditional level of characterization and building. What gives me some hope here is Starfield, which is a sentence that has never been said before. But for all its many faults, I thought the character development and creation was pretty good. Not incredible, but having the ability to choose fairly unique and gameplay changing traits with both positives and negatives and a background that could even impact some quests and dialogue options was a start. While I'm not expecting Baldur's Gate 3 level of characterization, taking some inspiration from that, or even to the extent of Starfield, would be a move in the right direction. The biggest one for me is probably the return of classes and having it more fully impact your playthrough. The world's reactivity to you, dialogue options, unique interactions, and more on your class could really expand the depth of your character and allow you to more fully immerse yourself into the journey. Sure, it's maybe in a way more limiting than Skyrim's free-for-all approach to character builds, but honestly, limits can be a good thing in crafting a unique and fun experience. But most importantly, when it comes to character, Elder Scrolls 6 should be more racist. I'm actually somewhat serious, as I find the race relations and unique interactions throughout the Elder Scrolls lore incredibly interesting, and having that further impact your playthrough, again, drives a deeper connection to your character and the world. And now this video is demonetized. Speaking of the world, reactivity in general to your actions is a big wishlist item for me, as I found Skyrim really lacking in this regard. While there is some, for the most part, despite your standing or state of the world, like resolving the Civil War storyline, nothing substantially changes or reacts, which is disappointing. I'd love to see a return to Morrowind's faction system, where joining factions or completing certain jobs for factions would ruin your reputation with others or even fully lock you out of them.
Yeah, I want to normalize games allowing you to break them. Let's get back to that, because for me, one of the things I really respect in an RPG is when they let you do something, even if it's going to run you straight into a brick wall. You know, like if I use the example all the time, but if I want to go into Fallout New Vegas and I want to just march straight over to Caesar and shoot him in, I should family friendly terms. If I march up to Caesar and pop a cap into his cranial cavity, the game lets me do that. Even though there's a bunch of quest lines and like endings and things specific to working with him, the game will let me do that. It will let me break that part of it because it respects my choice to do that. I hope they do that more.
At Dogmatic Socrates Mammalian M1268
What a
donated
name.
$10 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Multiplayer games are known for overly grindy gameplay. How concerned are you for Crimson Desert being extremely grindy? It sounds to me like everything Powers said would suggest it's gonna
be. I think for the 10, first of all, I do think that is a very valid concern. If I have the chance to talk to Will again, that's one of the things I'm going to ask him about, because I do think that it does sound, I mean, it's being made by a company that's known for MMOs. MMOs are all about total playtime. My guess would be there will be plenty of moments where it's like, okay, go do your own thing. Go do side stuff. Go level up. My point is, grinding is okay if the grinding activity is fun. If it's engaging and something you're actually interested in and having a good time with. If it's bad, I'm not okay with that. You know, like if the content I'm grinding is fun, grind away. If it's repetitive, boring crap, I'm not interested. I don't want to go and just, you know, like in South Park, I don't want to just go and kill 150,000 boars to get enough XP to move on to the next quest. But if I'm like going and hunting and fighting original bosses and completing original story-based quest lines, then I'm okay with that type of grind. It just depends on what that grinded content is. But I do think that that is a fair question to bring up with Crimson Desert, because we just don't know yet.
Faction conflicts, deceptions, power grabs, rivalries, it was all there. Maybe slightly basic, but attempted, and there is a massive opportunity to completely overhaul the faction system for Elder Scrolls 6 and create some incredibly in-depth and compelling quests, faction rewards, and conflicts. Mostly, I just don't want to be able to become the leader of every faction as the same character, and absolutely not the freaking Archmage of the Mage's College by casting one single spell.
Yeah, after 15 minutes. I agree, and I think that this was also, I mean, this is one thing where Starfield would make me maybe cautious, you know, with this expectation and hope, because I do think that they should have reputation matter a lot more, but that means that they got to let you ruin your relationship completely with factions to the point where like they're willing to shoot you on sight. I had times where in Starfield I was experimenting and I went to, what is it? The like police force, the space police force basically. And I went in there and I killed everybody except the quest givers don't die. They drop to all fours and pant. You leave for a while, you come back, they stood back up, and then they would talk to me and be like, I'm upset with you. Because the dialogue like was not written anticipating I went on a murder spree. It was just like, if your reputation is not good, it's bad, and they're mad at you, even though like, bro, I just murdered everybody you know, and you're just like, it's you again. Like have be more angry, you know, shoot me.
Locking faction advancement to your actual attributes and level, again, something seen in Morrowind, maybe wasn't perfect for those wanting to do more niche builds, but at least created an environment where your character was expected to be good at something the faction required of you. It was much more realistic and immersive as well. To really summarize the role-playing and character section, I mostly just hope Bethesda saw the runaway and massive commercial success that was Baldur's Gate 3 and realized that you don't need to streamline or dumb down these systems to make a mass appealing game. And
the unfortunate reality though, I think, is that Baldur's Gate 3 was made and released well after these decisions were made. Like Starfield launched in 2023. Baldur's Gate launched like a week before Starfield. And I don't think they'd be able to pivot even if they wanted to. I think all of these decisions on leveling systems, what does that look like? All of that stuff is done in pre-production, is done in the early stages when they're figuring out what the game is actually going to be like. And they'll tweak them later on for sure, but I don't think that, I unfortunately don't think any lessons from Baldur's Gate 3 were really implemented into those big picture decisions for Elder Scrolls 6 because it came too late. I think all of those decisions were pretty much already made.
in fact, there's a huge appetite.
It was in early access for quite some time, yes, but nobody knew how big and mainstream the appeal would be until it fully launched into 1.0. Because I played it in early access. I followed it before it launched. I did not expect it, and Larian did not expect it to blow up the way that it did. So, like, I think most people expected it to work kind of like a Rogue Trader, where it's got a die-hard community of fans that really like how deep and complex it is, but it's not like mainstream. It ended up being mainstream, and I think that that would have woken up Bethesda to be like, ooh, so we can go mainstream and have depth. Cool, let's do that. But I think it came too late.
Streamline or dumb down these systems to make a mass appealing game. And in fact, there is a huge appetite out there for more in-depth and meaningful decisions and choices when it comes to your character's development. Combat overhaul. While I love each Elder Scrolls for a variety of reasons, combat's usually on the bottom of that list. What really needs to be done here is a full return to role-based combat like in Morrowind. Let me swing and miss that.
Dude, I'm so stupid. My brain was like, combat where you roll a lot? Okay, roll, R-O-L-E. That, yes, agreed.
Mudcrab with a rusty dagger 500 times and die in the first encounter as Vivek intended.
Roll. Classic.
Okay, that was a joke. In fact, the opposite should be the case. Having played my fair share of Vermintide, a full embrace of more visceral, meaty, reactive combat should be expected and hoped for here. I think
shout out Vermintide. That's a good time too. Yeah, I think an overhaul to like gore systems would help a lot because melee combat is just inherently difficult to feel punchy and like actually impactful. Forgive the pun. One of the easiest ways you can do it though is with like crazy high intensity gore, where you whack them with the sword and the arm goes flying off. You hit them with the hammer and the blood sprays everywhere. That, I think, would do it.
Scrolls likes such as Tainted Grail and Avowed have shown what more dynamic combat could look like with dodges, parries, and an increase in martial abilities to unlock and master. It can do a lot for the general feel of first-person sword swinging. Bethesda really doesn't even necessarily need to look outside their own modding community to understand what could be improved here, as combat overhaul mods for Skyrim are very popular and see a vast improvement over the vanilla experience in ways I honestly think could still satisfy a 2035 or whenever it comes out audience. More weapon customization and specialties or masteries could be incredibly cool as well, with your character becoming more experienced and comfortable with your weapons of choice. Spears should also absolutely return, as they remain one of my favorite weapon types and are sorely missed since Morrowind as well. But with Hammerfell being a setting, it could present even more unique types of weapons such as slings, darts, and curved swords, skills, or perks. Dual wielding unique movesets and abilities, unarmed combat skill trees, the sky is the limit to make combat more in-depth and fun within Elder Scrolls 6, and it should feel intuitive, impactful, and brutal, though this has never been Bethesda's strong suit, even in their latest games, so I'm not exactly holding my breath on a vast overhaul here.
But they got Microsoft money now. They could go and hire some, I mean, they could literally go out if they wanted to and hire Vermintide devs. They could hire Darktide devs. They could hire anybody they want to come and like help them rebuild it in a way that fits their vision. It all comes down to the vision. If the vision is punchy, gory, and all the things he just said, they can do that. I've not seen anything like that. So my guess is their vision is just different. My guess is, again, it'll be probably Starfield, but with grass.
As far as magic goes, while yes, spellcrafting and creation should obviously return with many unique enchantments and spell effects outside of just damage or different damage type, I'd love to see a mix of Skyrim and Oblivion spell system here. I actually really love the dual-wielding system of Skyrim, where you can have a spell or blade in either hand or both, allowing you to mix and match to your heart's content, but replaying through Oblivion Remastered has really made me appreciate the ability to use a two-handed weapon or sword and shield and still cast various spells. So I think a hybrid system for the best of both worlds would be great here. Retain the ability to have spells or weapons in either hand, or an unequipped spell ready that could be cast, maybe in a weaker fashion or with a different effect, allowing full player freedom in how you mix and match might and magic, with the introduction of unique spell effects that could interact with each other. For example, freezing an enemy then shattering them with another spell, or charming them then buffing them with a frenzied effect.
Yeah, systems interactivity is one of the things that like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom really showed how to do it. Like I still remember like two specific moments. I remember cutting down the tree in that starting Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild. You cut down the tree, the body of the tree, the log, trunk, that's the word, falls over across a ravine, and you hop up and you walk across. When I figured that out, bro, I felt like a genius, because I was like, dude, there's no guide, there's no objective saying cut down the tree to make a bridge. You just do it, you figure it out. And once you realized you could do stuff like that, a whole world of opportunities opens up. And the devs are like challenging you. They're like, yeah, if you can figure out a way to like get past a certain objective or limit we've put with some creative solution, go for it. The second thing I remember very vividly was when I realized that you could light a patch of grass on fire. It would create the like smoke and heat effect above it. And you could jump up with your glider and it would actually catch the air and it would shoot you up. When I figured that out, I also was like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's like I can tie this system with this system and then this makes that do that. It was so cool. It was so cool. And I would love to see more stuff like that happen. The best examples within like D&D are the classic things with like create water. It fills the entire arena with water. And then you do some sort of shock spell or electric spell to actually go and electrocute everybody standing in that water. Things like that where the systems intertwine. I love it. And I would love to see more of that.
I don't know, this is just spitballing, and again, none of which will likely be realized, but is fun to discuss. Lastly, for combat, just bring the arena back. Even in its incredibly basic form in Oblivion, it remains a highlight within the game, and fun to play through every single time.
Oh, it's an easy peasy. AC, was it Origins? I think Origins had an arena as well. It's a super easy thing to do as far as I understand it, and it gives endless replay. You can give XP buffs and boosts and stuff from participating. It can be a good way to grind out gold or any sort of currency, crafting materials in the late game. Like, absolutely include that.
Some more arena combat, please, as it would sure make me glad. Yater. Immersion and simulation. Hardware and software have come a long way since 2011, and I hope with the fact that it won't need to fit on an Xbox 360 disc means that Elder Scrolls 6 can be vastly expanded upon in its world, NPCs, and overall interactivity. In regards to a
procedural
simulated
maps.
world, there's definitely a balance to be made here, because while I'd love to see a full return and expansion to Oblivion's Radiant AI systems, which was reduced in Skyrim and completely absent in Starfield, I also understand the massive constraints and issues this system presented for the developers. Outside of the hilarious bugs and unintended deaths of NPCs as they attempted to journey throughout the world and fulfill their schedules, there was a ton of work put into simulating lives for these characters, and it, as intended, brought them to life in a way that hasn't really been fully realized since. It definitely had many flaws, but I appreciated what was attempted here. However,
I agree, and it's something that a lot of studios, I guess this is another one you could add to the list of things that they built that they abandoned. I think it was a lot of work and they didn't think it paid off. But the Radiant AI, or what like KCD 2 did, which is very similar, or what Fable is reporting to do with NPCs that have day-night schedules. This is also something that Ubisoft did with AC Origins and Odyssey, with every NPC having a bed, a job assigned to them, full day-night routines that would actually play out and be simulated. It is really cool, but for some reason, like 6 to 8 years ago, devs just cut it out of everything. And it's so frustrating because it was so cool. And I don't know why they did that. Maybe to save CPU overhead or something. I don't know. But in KCD 2, basically one of the KCD 2 devs actually went and spoke at length about how they built out the NPC systems in KCD 2, and it was fascinating. I mean, it was so cool because it was just like a ton of little bitty things that are all working together to make that happen, and it was just fascinating to see. Damn it, I don't see it. I don't know where I saved the article. Oh well. But basically, I think KCD 2 had like 3,600 NPCs simulated across the map, which is absolutely wild, but it is doable nowadays, but it's not easy. And I hope that that becomes more of a mainstay because it's freaking cool. Thanks for letting me know about the high guard stuff, guys. We'll look at those.
However, due to both hardware and technological limitations, this Radiant AI system meant that the total number of NPCs had to be drastically reduced, resulting in cities that consisted of about 15 people and 5 buildings. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but a balance between realistic and dynamic citizens and population numbers could likely be reached in a way that's not completely immersion breaking, hopefully. Despite being high fantasy, I want the world to feel grounded, lived in, and realistic, with, if not lifelike, then serious depictions of different areas, towns, peoples, and cultures. So yes, larger cities and denser populations would be great, but at the same time, Starfield kind of saw that, and they were filled with randomly generated nameless NPCs, and honestly, even though there were technically more NPCs, it felt even more lifeless and forgettable than the much smaller town of Whiterun. It's all
That's true. It's absolutely true that these were technically bigger and did technically have more NPCs. That's true. With Starfield, though, even then, like the cities were laughably small. Like this is supposed to be a hub of civilization, and it was like 3 little zones, maybe a total of like 400 people walking around. You know, it did not feel like a hub of civilization. It did not feel like New Atlantis. You know, it just didn't. And I think that goes back to the idea of expectations and what players expect given their current tastes and also the other games that they've seen. You know, I just think that times have changed. People expect more.
NPCs, it felt even more lifeless and forgettable than the much smaller town of Whiterun. It's all a facade, but it can be made stronger through some clever AI tools and behaviors. And having named citizens with their dedicated jobs and homes really helped to create a lived-in world. Again, I'm not saying Skyrim has the most incredible cities ever, because it obviously does not, but there is an illusion of life and simulation that I want to see further extended in Elder Scrolls 6 in a way that was unfortunately completely ignored within Starfield.
I think that that's very accurate, though. Illusion of life and simulation. Realistically, does it actually matter if you can follow the blacksmith to his house and then to the forge and then back to his house at nighttime? Does it actually matter? Is that going to make your gameplay time quantifiably better? Probably not, but what it's going to do is it's going to add to your level of immersion, taking the world seriously and making it feel lived in, because a lot of gameplay is also about how it feels. I think that's also why people get so upset over like character designs, because if they see somebody walking around the world who feels out of place and feels like they're being put there for some reason other than it makes sense in the world, it pulls you out of it. It disconnects you from it. You know, like if I'm playing in Elder Scrolls 6, and I'm walking around and it's like, you know, a muddied peasant and a hard and brutish blacksmith, a mercenary on the road. Then I walk up here and Andy Dick is just on the ground breakdancing because he's promoting his new Amazon show, Getting Dicked. I would lose my sense of immersion, you see. That's what would happen. Even though it wouldn't technically ruin my fun in all the other areas of the map, it would pull me out of the game, you see. That's what it would do.
Different towns have specialties such as fishing or trading or military. Could be a great touch too, and having them
actually, you're right. Now that I say that out loud, that would actually be pretty cool. I would actually, you know what? Let's do it. This is not a joke. Is Andy Dick actually alive? I don't actually know. I remember seeing a story that he's like on the street, like full on drug addict. I don't know. Hope he figures it out. Sorry to be a bummer, but like I legitimately don't know if he's alive.
Towns have specialties such as fishing or trading or military. Could be a great touch too, and having them make logical sense in their layout and surrounding areas goes a long way. I think Rockstar is actually the master of developing these kind of spaces, at least for me with something like Red Dead Redemption 2. While that level
Oh, no need to give me money about the Highguard devs. I see it. Don't worry. Don't worry, I see it. We'll look at it right after this.
Of developing these kind of spaces, at least for me with something like Red Dead Redemption 2. While that level of detail and care is frankly ridiculous, for instance, the Saint Denis power lines actually run where they should and all originate from an electric company within the city, it's those small details that Bethesda excels at as well, as I find their environmental storytelling almost or even exceeding that level at times. An actual world economy with prices and trade goods varying town to town could be fun as well. Doesn't need to be super in-depth, but seeking and holding certain goods knowing they will sell better along one of the coastal towns as opposed to the desert could be an extremely immersive way to generate more gold or even create trading kind of quest lines. So fantastic environmental design and layouts are hoped for and expected, though Starfield doesn't give a whole lot of confidence here. Lastly, for immersion, I'd like to see some survival mechanics, though I generally find them tedious and annoying to deal with more than anything, but I can't deny that they add quite a bit to the immersive feel of being grounded as your character within the world. Dealing with temperatures, especially within the Alakir Desert, and needing to prepare or dress accordingly, maybe not requiring food and sleep but providing buffs in addition to rested or seeing stamina impacted could add to the immersion.
Absolutely. Immersion's an important thing in an open world adventure game. It really is. Like, it's crucial. I mean, I think whether it's you got to have some, you know, cold drinks prepared before you head into the deserts, or you got to have, you know, a different type of garb so that you're not wearing woolly mammoth skin while you go into 120-degree heat. Like, those types of things matter. And I think the easy thing is just be like, no one cares. It's fine. Who cares? When you play World of Warcraft, do you really care if like the layers you're wearing correlate to, oh no, you're wearing 5 layers of clothing and you're going into a swamp? Nobody cares. Sure. But there's a certain, like, I think it's easy to say nobody cares to those types of things. And that's what happens a lot. And that's what keeps a lot of games from getting to that next level of immersion, you know, where you actually do need to care. Because there are people that care, whether they realize it or not. It's why Kingdom Come Deliverance, I've told you guys, and many of you guys played the games because I told you, trust me, it's amazing. Once you give yourself over to Kingdom Come 1 and 2, you will have one of the most immersive gameplay experiences of your life. There isn't really anything quite like it. Red Dead 2 also does a phenomenal job of making you feel immersed in the world. And I think that is what players are really expecting and demanding. And it's one of those things that's hard to put into words when you just like, you feel immersed in a world and you want to explore more of it. It's hard to describe, but when you feel it and when it's working, nothing like it.
Expect if there's anything, however, it will be similar to Starfield's vanilla experience, where certain mechanics like that could be toggled on or off, while not necessarily being a full survival experience. And honestly, I'd be okay with that. Writing and quests. Gameplay and immersion is all well and good, but what I've found increasingly critical for me lately in truly enjoying an RPG is the quality of its writing, and I hate to say Bethesda has a lot of work to be done here. I know I keep referencing Starfield, but, well, it's our only point of reference for the studio. It's not a decade old, and whoo boy, does that game not inspire confidence in its writing and tone. Okay, my dirty little dark secret is that I actually enjoyed large parts of Starfield.
Boom, canceled, get him. No, I'm kidding.
Exploration and writing were awful, but shipbuilding, combat, some biomes and areas were fairly enjoyable and relaxing to discover for me. And while I think there's maybe a handful, if that, of quests and stories that either made me chuckle or just feel a human emotion of some kind, the rest was frankly embarrassing. Cliche, cookie cutter, cutesy, and clueless, Starfield's writing was, to put it simply and shortly, juvenile. Juvenile in its tone, attempts at humor or edginess, and just juvenile in its quality. Neon as a concept and location should have just been completely redone, and the NASA punk, excitable explorers of many of its main characters and quest lines fell completely flat. So I'll just...
I can right now come up with a more interesting character than they have in the entirety of Starfield. Are you ready? You ready? A robot companion that is powered and controlled by an AI, but the AI was trained in 2026 on exclusively the music of Notorious B.I.G. So the entire game, it only speaks to you in lyrical style, low-key yelling at you, and yes, you can romance him. That, imagine, I think that would be way better than anything we got, frankly. It sounds like Borderlands 3. Okay, actually. I'm just saying, having anything like that would at least be something. The problem is, like, if I blocked out this guy's name, I realize it's on screen. So I was going to be like, what's his name? But it's on screen. I'm betting most people who played Starfield wouldn't be able to tell you the names of everybody that's in this room, the core characters in like that main Constellation questline, because they're all so forgettable.
Saying Elder Scrolls 6 should have good writing is simplifying it. Well, it just should. I want true moral dilemmas. I want a darker, more serious tone and atmosphere. I want decisions to have weight, or even to appear to have weight. In general, I just want the lore, setting, and stories to be taken seriously, and with both gravitas and nuance. It's fine if everything isn't handed to the player up front, and in many moments throughout the Elder Scrolls series, this has actually been the case, where the kindly old lady you just helped turned out to be in a coven of witches, something you may have never discovered unless you looked for it. The world should be violent. Hammerfell and its people should be a story of decay and survival against the most extreme of odds. The wars and political maneuverings of High Rock should be heavy subjects. Having nuanced characters with their own beliefs and perspectives and biases should come into play. I know this may sound like a lot, but honestly, given some of the incredible storytelling and mature themes we've seen handled in other RPGs lately, such as Baldur's Gate 3 or Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or even titles within this franchise itself, it should be what's expected. I know the writing and story have never been the biggest focus for these games, but a level of seriousness and competence here would go a long way in making Elder Scrolls 6 feel like a contemporary RPG rather than a relic of old school approach to storytelling.
I agree. I would love for that to be the case. I just don't think so. Again, if you're going to figure out like what's likely, you just look at who's there and their past work. All the people working on Elder Scrolls 6 are the same people that worked on Starfield, and the same people that defended Starfield and said they thought it was actually really good, and that while there were people that liked it less, there were a lot of people who loved it. And then when people told them that they were crazy and they needed to listen to criticism, they left Twitter and only went over to Blue Sky, which was more of an echo chamber that was nicer to them. I've heard. So I would love for this to be the case, but I'm not going to get my hopes up at all.
While I would consider good writing, as nebulous as that term is, to be the bare minimum, branching questlines and impactful story choices would be my next wishlist item. Again, it's been something we've seen throughout the series to varying degrees of success, but pushing that further creates a much more compelling narrative as you journey throughout the world. Speaking of, I mentioned before an idea about just basically copying the concept and powers of a Dragonborn within Elder Scrolls 6, something we did see copied in Starfield. If the game were to take place in Hammerfell, I think allowing or even forcing the main character to have sword singer abilities and gifts could be incredibly cool and unique and likely drive the main narrative in some way. Sword singing is definitely one of the cooler parts of Redguard lore and a fan favorite deep cut that we really don't know that much about, allowing for really anything to be done here. While the lore and focus of sword singers has been Redguard and Yokuden focused, it could always be hand-waved away to present some incredibly powerful and unique combat and magical abilities you could bring to bear, such as being a Dragonborn and not being a Nord. As really any type of character, whether mage or fighter or stealth archer, could take advantage of certain abilities like this. New sword-singing
Pretty
lore
cool.
and techniques could be discovered or unlocked through duels with ancient Yokudan specters, which would be powerful boss fights reminiscent of Skyrim's dragon battles. It's not really a super original idea by me, I've seen it floated around for a while, but it is very cool, and I think it could create for a unique yet engaging narrative.
I agree.
Lastly, for questing
Yeah.
and writing, voice acting and actors should remain the exact same. Throw one or two celebrities in there, or well-known actors for good measure. Maybe Keanu is available to be Johnny Redguard, a ghost who travels with us and chimes in periodically, but other than that, I want to keep hearing the same 4 voice actors with all different characters throughout the world again and again. Let's just call it the Bethesda charm. Lastly, for general features, get a load of this one: less loading, please. I know this is a big component of the creation engine, and for all its faults, including loading, it does enable a level of interactivity not seen with most other game engines. But whatever can be done to reduce and remove loading screens is critical to the overall enjoyment of Elder Scrolls 6. Even playing Oblivion Remastered,
Yeah.
as quick as the load times are, having them even within the same building if you go up one floor, or 3 to 4 times within some of the larger caves and dungeons, is absolutely painful. A more seamless world creates more seamless fun. You can use that one, Todd, that's on me. Dynamic events throughout the world would be great.
It's true. And they are going to be overhauling this with the Starfield 2.0 updates, maybe. My understanding is they're going to basically just play like a little video on the screen while the load screen happens behind it to cover it up. So like when you fast travel from planet to orbit or something, they cover up that load with an animation to make it seem more immersive and seamless, which should help. But my understanding is that those things that he's describing with like loading between floors or loading within a cave and stuff, that's just an artifact of the creation engine, and to fix it would require a lot more work than I think they're willing to do.
Actually focus on. And going back to vanilla Skyrim, I really forgot how far and few between these sorts of things happen. Random bandit encounters, factions battling on the roads, beast attacks, these create again a much richer and more lifelike world. And seeing as how this is a wish list, lastly, should I wish for the fabled co-op or multiplayer? No. As fun as that might be, and that's a huge might, the last thing I play the Elder Scrolls for is to have a buddy Leroy Jenkinsing into dungeons or yelling at me through Discord. Multiplayer is not on my wish list because it's likely something I would never engage with these types of games. I'll just stay lonely, thank you very much. And that's sort of it. Certain things go without saying: performance, stability, mod support, but I feel like I hit on all the major wishlist items I have at this time, other than, you know, the game just existing in the first place. I know this is a much more rambling...
No, I thought that was very good. Well done, RogueRanks. I appreciate the video. I think it was quite good. I really liked it. I agree. I think all of the points that he raised are totally fair. As for the co-op, if they do that, it's possible it comes as like an update after launch. I could see them trying that, especially as ESO starts to get older, but I'm hopeful that that's not their priority, because they struggle to make solid games when they're just doing single player stuff. Imagine if they're trying to balance it for 2 players, like with drop-in co-op. I'd be worried about that, but anyway. He took my thing.